And I was on mute. I apologize. Good morning to everyone. My name is Taylor Clifford. I'm the Client Engagement Manager with Performance Tracker. Now, this is Tea Time with Taylor, which is a new webinar series. Me and the J3 Tech Performance Tracker team have decided to start offering. For now, it is going to be monthly, but as it grows in popularity, hopefully we will be increasing the frequency. Most of you have been Johnson Consulting clients for a long time. You know that you always have our business consulting team available to you as well. But with Performance Tracker, you have myself along with my J3 Tech Solutions team available here for you guys for analyzing your data and making sure that you fully understand how to use the product and get the most out of the product, and all of the new things that we have coming to our platform as well. So typically in this webinar series, we will center it around one topic. I'll dive a little bit deeper into that topic for about the first 15-20 minutes. And then I'll leave some space for question and answer at the end. So it's definitely encouraged that you use the Q&A feature within the webinar to ask questions throughout, and I will get to them towards the end of the call. But thank you guys for joining today, and I am going to go ahead and get started since we have limited time. So let me get into presentation mode here. All right. So today's agenda and what we really wanted to focus our first tea time with Taylor around is diving deeper into those key CX metrics that you guys are so used to seeing when you log into your platform, your net promoter score, your overall performance score, and then your total value index. I'm going to have some interesting benchmarking statistics in here as well. And then at the end of every tea time, before we go into the Q&A section, I will just take a few moments to remind you guys of the resources that are available to you from me and my team as well. So let's go ahead and dive in here. Now, I did want to kick this off with a slide of our 5 characteristics of high-performing teams. This is something that our Johnson Consulting team helped me come up with when we were really talking about the philosophy of Performance Tracker. Why was it created? And what do we want Performance Tracker to be about now that we have the ability to offer this full CX product through Medallia, which, as all of you know, you're all current users, that Medallia powers Performance Tracker now. So trust, we want to have transparency with the information. If there is anyone on this call who currently doesn't have funeral directors onboarded to your platform and having users log in and see their own scores at that funeral director level or the cemetery service representative level, just let me know and we can always onboard your users as you see fit. Now, I mean, there's no additional cost for extra users to come on. It's just we have some companies that don't want to have them on right away, and we want to open that transparency wherever you can, because that really engages everyone, not only with the system but with the level of service that they're providing to your families. Clear communication. So as you know, I mean, hearing that family feedback directly and getting the voice of the customer directly from the survey responses in real time with the digital survey is very important. And that's something that we wanted to focus around with the survey. Defined roles and responsibilities. So with the different user roles that are available within Performance Tracker, we have our executive level, our location manager level, and then our arranger level users, and they can all view different aspects of the data and they have different access levels. We really wanted to target specific areas of feedback that an individual employee is seeing, and really highlight the areas that they should be focusing in on. Engaged leadership. So of course, our executive level users, we love to see, especially, our larger corporate clients, like Park Lawn or Everstory. We have everyone at that higher level looking in at the location level, drilling down to the arranger level, being able to see everything from either a bird's eye view or drill it down to that really granular level as well. And then collective goals. So obviously moving the needle with performance trackers, the overall goal of the system, you don't want to just receive feedback to receive it. You want to be able to make it actionable and do something with that. So creating goals based around the data that's currently coming in from the families, and not only on that feedback side, but also taking a look at your sales metrics too. And that's one of the biggest benefits of performance tracker, is that you have reporting on both the survey and sales side of things. So if there are any users on the call who aren't sure how to use some of the sales reports, or even if your company is pulling in sales data, let me know, and I can definitely get on a one-on-one call with you and walk through that a little bit more. So diving into our key performing driving metrics, and this, is all centered around those 5 characteristics of high performing teams. And these are the main ways we measure that with Performance Tracker. Now, Net Promoter Score, hopefully none of these metrics are strangers to any of you, since you're all current users of the platform. But Net Promoter Score is certainly one of the most important metrics that we track in the system. It is the first question that we ask on the survey. And there's a reason for that. Obviously, we know that, previously served families is by far the highest, way that funeral homes and cemeteries are both receiving business, and, they create that brand loyalty. And especially with cemetery, they have that legacy drilled in to the family lines, and they have clients for years and years to come, and that's all based around the service that's provided on site. So we do ask this: how likely are you to recommend the name of your location? We always type it in at the location level specifically, not the company level. And we ask to a friend or a relative. Now, this is just an overall gauge of the overall health of your location, of your organization as a total. That's why we use Net Promoter Score. It was originally created by a survey company actually called Bain and Company, and this was, I want to say, over 50 years ago. I'm not sure of the exact year, but since then, it's been used globally by all industries, and certainly with death care, we want to make sure that we're using this status. So just making sure that we can take a look at this Net Promoter Score and really gauge the future performance and growth of the business. Now, how is the Net Promoter Score calculated? It is on this 0 to 10 scale rating, which hopefully, again, most of you are aware. And hopefully these smiley faces look a little recognizable to you too, if you're looking in the system and seeing feedback, because any detractor score that comes in, or a negative score that's going to be something from 0 to 6, that does trigger an alert. And again, if you're not receiving any of the alerts that I'm mentioning via email, let me know, and I can definitely look into that and make sure we get those enabled for you at any level. But with a detractor score, one of the things that we wanted to really create, especially when we moved over to Medallia and went through the migration that all of you so graciously went through about a year ago to our updated platform, we wanted to make sure that there was a case management form in order to close the loop with the family member who was responding to the survey. So that's, requiring feedback to be followed up on, and requiring that you touch base with that family member again. That's not only going to help resolve the issue at hand, but it may even be able to help create a new experience for them. Maybe they would be interested in maybe doing something like pre-need with you in order to ensure a better experience next time, or whatever it may be. So there is always opportunity in a detractor, and that's why I like when we get detractors in the system. Now, Jake Johnson's funeral home here in Sun City, Arizona, bad example of detractors, because they have a lot of really positive scores. They're a very high performing team. So whenever I do a demo of the system, I always point that out, because I can't usually show the case management form live. I have to show a screenshot of it. But my point in saying that, though, is that if you have detractors, don't worry, they happen, and that's really your opportunity to move the needle forward. Now, a promoter is going to be anything from 9 or 10. And you can see here on this calculation scale that how the Net Promoter Score is calculated is we take the percentage of promoter scores minus the percentage of detractor scores. Now, anything a 7 or an 8 is going to be considered passive, and that does not move the needle on the Net Promoter Score. However, those scores and those surveys of 7 and 8 matter the most, in my opinion, because they affect your overall performance score, which we will get to next, and your total value index score. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that, but the passive scores also, that could either be considered really good feedback. Sometimes people have it in their heads that, hey, an 8 is pretty good, pretty high performing, that's a B. But it doesn't count as a promoter. So what could have made the experience push up to that 9 or 10? That's really what you want to dive into with those passives and making sure you're reaching back out to families. So I do have some notes here on some benchmarking information. I'm sure you guys have been looking at that while I've been rambling on here. But just so you're aware, in general, and this is not within the death care industry, this is just globally throughout any industry, anything above 0 is considered good. Now, we are a business of very high performing personal relationship builders. So I will say that, especially looking at the benchmark data that we have, above 0 is not good enough for performance tracker users, for anyone in the industry that I've met or come across. And our business consulting team can certainly tell you that as well. But year to date right now, where we're at for 2024 on the cemetery side is a 77.0. And again, the highest score possible is 100 and the lowest score possible is negative 100. And then year to date for funeral, we are at 86.8. So you can see both of them have risen on average since the last year. So that means that our users, we've only brought on a few new companies for users this year. So mostly everyone that's on the platform right now has been year over year on Performance Tracker for a little while now, at least 1 year. And I mean, that's a really good sign, just from my perspective, of our clients are using Performance Tracker to not only track their family's feedback, but they are taking the data and making actionable changes amongst their teams. So that's really good to see as well. But just know that you want to be well above the average if you want to be one of the highest performing funeral locations in the country, which I will get to towards the end of this presentation as well when I talk about our Performance Tracker awards. Now, just one last note on Net Promoter Score before I move forward to overall performance. I do just want to point out the customer lifetime value that gets created with a Net Promoter Score. It really helps you build that long-term brand loyalty, and it essentially can act as free publicity or your marketing team if marketed correctly and shared on your website. It really just showed off amongst anyone who is looking at your funeral home. In a couple of weeks, we will have a couple of sessions of this tea time. We will have a session regarding social reviews as well, and I'll dive into how you can make all of your positive feedback public. But for now, I mean, taking your Net Promoter Score, taking some of your internal survey scores and putting those things on your website, advertising in local newspapers, having it displayed on property at the funeral home or cemetery. I think that those things can be really impactful for anyone who might be shopping and unsure of where they're going to go, especially so last minute with their death care service. And then one statistic that I found through our partners at Medallia is that they actually published this from Bain & Company, and I thought it was really interesting. Most industries see that Net Promoter Score accounts for 20 to 60% of a company's organic growth rate. So I thought that was a really big number, especially since this statistic is including all industries globally, not just death care. And obviously we know death care, there's a lot of return business, but I just thought that was interesting. So I don't think I noted at the beginning of this presentation, but just so you all know, I will be sending these slides out after our presentation. information. They will also be available on your dashboards. We are going to be putting a Tea Time with Taylor section under the support tab in Medallia when you log in. So you'll be able to re-access this recording and this slideshow whenever you would like. So moving forward to our overall performance score, this was a proprietary metric actually created by the Johnson Consulting team of business consultants. And their thought process behind this was we ask so many questions on the survey, not an overwhelming amount. Typically, it does take respondents anywhere between 7 to 10 minutes to complete the digital survey. And that's just dependent on how many open-ended responses they tend to leave. But with the overall performance score, we really wanted to encompass the rest of the survey that wasn't in that net promoter score. So obviously your net promoter score was that 0 to 10 rating at the very beginning of the survey, but there's so much survey after that. There's so many nitty gritty specifics to the experience of a family that we really wanted to create a metric that really helped encompass the rest of their experience other than just the overall satisfaction. So we do have the rest of the survey on this 1 to 5 scale of not satisfied at all to extremely satisfied. NA is available. And of course, if NA is selected on the survey, then you just don't get this included in the OPS. So it's an average without including that question, if that makes sense. And these are the sections of the survey that are included for the OPS or overall performance score. Our initial contact section, which is basically first impression, that first initial call that the funeral home receives, what was their experience like, the arrangement experience, so directly with the funeral director or the cemetery service counselor, or if it was a cremation survey, and that's what we sent out for the case type, then they can select either their experience being online, in person, or over the phone. And those questions calculate based on an online experience, essentially. So if you don't work with a specific person, then you're asked a specific question with kind of going around that. Staff and services on the funeral survey, facilities and vehicles on the funeral survey. So that's going to be operational needs, obviously, which is really useful for an arranger user to be looking at. And this is one of the reasons why I love to have arranger users log in and really get engaged with the system is, let's say, someone left an overall score of 6, which is a detractor score, but they left the arrangement experience at a 5, and then the facilities and vehicles was at a 2. That would mean that, operationally on site at the physical property, there was something wrong with the experience, and it wasn't necessarily that individual who was assigned to the case. So that's just always really good for morale, really good for performance reviews to be able to dive a little. And then on the cemetery side, likewise, instead of facilities and vehicles, we have grounds, service areas, and walkways. Again, just the physical operational needs of the property. And the 1,000 point scale that the overall performance score is rated on is calculated based on this 1 to 5 scale of the question itself. So you can see here the scale rating, and I'm sure as you see in your dashboard, hopefully you're all in the 900 range. But if you're a little bit lower than that, there's always room for improvement, and that's fine as well. But you'll notice that 1,000 scale on the dial. One of the things with overall performance score that I want to point out is, well, first of all, here's the funeral benchmark or average right now, and the cemetery benchmark and average. And one of the things that you can do in your dashboard, if you ever want to get this benchmarking information, is you can go to the survey performance tab, and then click on the results subtab, and then you can check on the current benchmark if you scroll down to overall performance score. So you can see that on the funeral side or on the cemetery side. This little screenshot that I took here was on Menke, which is Jake's location here, and they do funeral services there. So you can see that benchmarking data whenever you'd like, and the delta is just obviously the difference between your score where you're at right now and then the average in the system. And just to update you guys, we do have about 1,300 rooftops, give or take, on Performance Tracker right now, and that's nationwide, and some in Canada as well. I believe we've got Jay Wilson at Parkland on here too. He's from Canada, so represent Canada. I love it. But I do want to point out that with that information, the benchmark is just the average. It's just the middle ground. You want to be well above that if you want to be considered one of the higher performing locations in the country. So again, we'll get to that towards the end with the performance tracker awards. So the arranger driver scores, again, it's on that still 0 to 1,000 scale. And this is just that section of the arrangement experience within that overall performance score rating. And I like to dive into this, and, in case there's any arrangers joining this session today, because this session is really geared toward all users, not just executives, not just location managers. So this is what arrangers on the funeral side are rated on. And I will say this is what they can see too when they log into their dashboard, and they can see, the movement of their scores over time. Really great tool to use if you have a annual review to take with anyone. That's a really good one to use as well. And I'll close it out with the total value index before opening it up to Q&A. I'm gonna have to learn to talk faster on these 30-minute sessions. But the total value index is a proprietary metric that Johnson Consulting Group created. And the way it's calculated is we take 50% of the overall performance score, 25% of the net promoter score, and 25% of the value question that's on the survey. So as you all know, the value question on the survey is the third question that's asked, and it's worded a lot more eloquently than I'm about to butcher it probably, but it's basically asking the respondent to rate the value that they perceived based on the price that they paid for the service and any products that they have as well. Now this total value index was created because obviously we want to create or we want to make sure that we are viewing the competitive nature of the pricing. We wanted to ask about the pricing specifically. And I will say that just because this, we do ask about pricing, it's always intrinsically a little bit lower than the overall performance score. But as Jake, our owner, says a lot of the time, it doesn't matter how expensive a product is. That doesn't really have anything to do with the value that your arrangers are creating around the product or the service that they're providing. So they should be able to provide a high value regardless of the price that was paid. These are some of the averages for TVI that's in the system right now on the cemetery side and funeral. Again, that's just the average, the middle ground. These are going to be the top performing scores that you want to set as your goal, if you will. And obviously, every organization, every location has different goal setting based around their specific scores and something that's realistic. But in terms of our performance tracker excellence and customer service awards that we provide at the end of every year, I know we have some winners of that award on this call. These were the ones for last year and the highest scores that were given. So you can see they're pretty close to as high as you can possibly get. Net promoter was at 100 at the highest, so that's as high as it can go, and pretty close to 1,000 on both OPS and TVI for 2023. So essentially just getting it as high as you can. Something that's really, I'm excited that we're going to launch shortly here is a performance tracker award report within the system. So it will keep the competitors that you're seeing, the other locations that you're seeing anonymous. However, it will show you where you're ranked currently for the awards. So you can see, hey, if we cut it off at 15, which we do because we only have 15 winners of every sizing category based on call volume each year. And if you're ranked at 18, you can push that forward to get to 15 before the end of the year. So we want to make sure we put that data in front of all of our users so it can be a little bit more transparent when it comes to our award system. So Q&A, I am just going to point out our resources tab before I open it up for questions and answers. Just a reminder, if you guys submit a support ticket, that's going to be located in your dashboard under support. And then the resources tab or help tab, you'll see the ticket submission, which helps just because you can submit an attachment, anything, if you might have a technical issue or anything like that. If you need to reach us for, training requests, product updates, anything that I mentioned earlier on this call, if you have questions on any of it, you can reach out to us at support@j3techsolutions.com. That's going to put you in touch with me, my director of operations, Allie, who I'm sure a lot of you have heard from as well. She communicates with clients pretty regularly. And then anyone on our tech team or on our development team who can help solve tickets as well. So, and then Leanne on our data side as well. I know that a lot of you communicate with Leanne too. So I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and try and go into the Q&A section, see if anyone submitted questions. If you haven't yet, then now is the time to do so. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have anyone who left a question yet. Let's see here if I can enable mics for everyone. Let's do it this way. You can raise your hand on the little raise hand notification and at the top bar. And if you have a question, I will unmute you because there's a few people on this call. So I'm here to answer questions. If you're not comfortable answering or asking in a public setting, that's perfectly fine. Y'all can reach out to me at my email address, taylor@j3techsolutions.com, or again, our full support team as well. And we've got about 4 minutes left here. So I'm going to leave it just in case you guys have questions. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and I'll keep everything open until 11:30 for about 3 more minutes here. But for anyone who wants to jump off, thank you guys so much for joining today. I promise to try and keep our time a little better moving forward, but this was just one of many tea times that we're going to have. And it's just an area where you can get further engaged with the data that's in the system and ask questions as needed.